Good evening and welcome to Doctors on Call. I'm Mary Morehouse, psychotherapist at Insight Counseling Duluth, where I specialize in anxiety and in providing support to individuals affected by cancer and their loved ones. I'm your host for our episode tonight on sports psychology. The success of this program is very dependent on you, the viewer, so please call in your questions or send them in to our email address ask@pbsnorth.org. Our panelists this evening include Dr. Dave Plude, Arrowhead Psychological Clinic, Ashley Rengstorff, Creative Solution Counseling for Kids, and Corey Kemp, educator and coach. Our phone volunteers are standing by to answer your calls. And now, on to tonight's program on sports psychology. So excited to have all of you guys here. What a great panel we have. So Dave, if you could just start out by telling us where you work and a little bit about what you do with this with the sports psychology in your practice.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for having me. In terms of sports psych, I've been working with it over the past 30 years. I've really cut my teeth working with some D1 players in my mentoring earlier years. I've worked with pro players over the years, worked with a lot of youth sports teams. Really rewarding area to work with. A lot of motivated kids and families. And there's a lot of really neat things that you can do and skills, mental toughness and whatnot. So anyway, it's a wonderful area to work. I do couples counseling and family therapy amongst other things at Arrowhead, but I do enjoy doing a lot of sports psych.
Wonderful, great.
Yeah.
Ashley, tell us a little bit about where you work in your practice.
Yeah, so I work at Creative Solutions Counseling for Kids up in Hibbing, and I work primarily with adolescents and young adults that have experienced trauma, but also, mood disorders, anxiety disorders, just everyday stressors. It's hard to be a kid now.
It is.
So I work in supporting families and children, adolescents. Obviously a lot of them are involved in sports, and working on kind of the mental aspect of it, but also last year I had the wonderful experience of working with one of our local sports teams and really talking about the culture of that team and trying to support them to develop better relationships with each other, and
Great. And which leads us right into Corey. So tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing.
I was the head baseball coach at St. Scholastica from 2009 to 2019.
Okay.
So spent a lot of time working with college athletes. I stepped away from that to go into the classroom and be a fifth grade teacher, and also to coach my sons and their friends. They're now 10 and 13. So I've coached upwards of 22-year-olds down to 5 and 6-year-olds.
Wow. Do you have a favorite age to coach?
I like to get them when they're young, and that kind of goes into the culture thing. You can teach them a lot when they're little, that if you instill it into them then, it's going to help as they get older, because that's when it gets really challenging.
Yeah, it gets really, I'm sure it is. Yeah, those 5-year-olds are cute. So we'll go ahead and just start on some questions. So Dave, we'll start with you. What role does mental health play in athletic performance?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody because everybody comes into their athleticism differently. Everybody's got a different kind of background emotionally. And I think the biggie is probably one of the biggest things. In fact, it was kind of fun. I reached out to the sports psychologist for the Vikings today, and Dr. Justin Anderson. And it's really similar to what we're working with up north. Some of the biggest things: self-doubt, fear of failure.
Really?
Those are the things that are making kids lock up the most. They can be gifted.
Yeah.
And at practice, they can be just killing it. You get them to some competitive events and they stiffen up.
Yeah.
Okay, because their focus is on the fear of making a mistake. And so the art is really in helping, because self-doubt's going to creep in, and especially as the performance pressure rises, the higher you get up.
Yeah.
And that's a big load for kids to carry, and adults as well. And so the big trick is to be able to know that it's normal to have the self-doubt, but what else can you shift your focus to? And how can you manage that anxiety and stress, pressure?
Because it's going to be there.
It's going to be there.
It's going to be there, and it's a good thing because it's motivating, and there's a tipping point.
Yes.
When it's helpful and hurtful.
Exactly.
And so to try and find that sweet spot for
very true.
Those high achieving athletes. Okay, great. Ashley, how can we make youth sports more about growth and fun and less about pressure to win?
Oh,
I know.
great question. You
Yeah.
know, I'm a parent to a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old,
Okay.
and I've had a lot of conversations with parents and families recently about the fact that it seems like sports is no longer even about having fun. You know, you feel like you're almost late to the game if you're starting your kiddo in sports in, you know, first grade instead of in preschool. And so I think that, you know, going back to the culture thing, I think so much of it has to do with remembering why we all played sports when we were younger, and the fact that, it should just be about fun. And I think that that's a mistake that, you know, a lot of parents, you know, well-intentioned, but make is, you know, thinking that their kid is going to be the next Wayne Gretzky. And we have to just keep ourselves grounded in the fact that, again, why are we doing this? And really, it comes down to relationships, and it comes down to having fun. Because most of us aren't going to play professionally.
No, exactly. And most of the kids, and getting into that a little bit. Sometimes it's the ticket to college, and it's the ticket to higher education. And so then there's a kind of an academic piece and a kind of a pressure for that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the collective inertia to start early, even to make the high school team, to belong to a high school team even, can start us pretty young. Yeah, and parents are all in, and you know, you get it, and then other people are starting early, and it just gets rolling.
Exactly.
And it's bananas. There's camps year round, and some great athletes come out of it, but it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of busyness.
Yeah.
You know?
It is. All right, Corey, how does team culture affect mental health? So you've been the coach of teams on a collegiate level, and now with the cute little kids. But tell me about how, you know, you kind of created culture and how important that is.
A lot of it starts with the people you surround yourself with. So in college, I had the luxury of recruiting student athletes that I felt would best fit our culture. We could find the leaders, you know, when they were juniors and seniors, so we kind of knew who we were bringing in. We would find some very skilled high school baseball players that we would not recruit because we didn't feel they had the character and the values that we really wanted. We'd rather take a kid who was a hard worker, maybe not the super talented kid, but just came from a good family and just had those good character skills and value and valued leadership and loyalty. With the youth kids, you kind of have to teach them that, right? So as a father, as parents, I think they also have a really big obligation to help with that team culture and trust the coaches and what they're teaching their players, whether it's 5 years old or 13 years old, because the coaches know where they want to go. They have the vision. And parents often don't always support that when they leave the field or they leave the hockey rink. So there's a lot of buy-in that has to happen from parents as well, that trust your coach, what they're teaching you. These skills matter. And even as young kids, you're teaching them life skills.
Yeah. Do you think that's like one of the most important things parents can do is support what the coaches said?
Yeah.
Coaches say.
For sure, right? Because if they're getting that message on why body language is important and why you can't hang your head because all the negative effects that has, and a parent doesn't support that as well and won't get on their kid about, hey, your body language has to be better. It was pretty bad tonight. If it's just a coach telling them when they leave the field, I'm moving on. My parents aren't going to say anything to me. So just supporting what the coach is trying to develop in their players.
Yeah, so important, and there's a reason the coach is the coach, right? There's a reason that expertise is there. So
it's really a fine line too, right? Because I think the parents supporting the coach is just amazing and getting behind and getting into that culture. But at the same time, if the parents on the way home from practice or a game are on their child or young adult about their performance, right? It's just a very stress-inducing or shame-based thing, and it makes it a little bit less fun. So if you can let the coaches do that part of the coaching.
Well, and being a coach and a dad, it happened for the first time. My son, 13-year-old, is playing hockey here locally, and on the way home the other day, I didn't say anything about hockey. I didn't ask him how it went, and we pulled in the driveway, and he said, "Aren't you going to ask about practice? You normally do." I said, "Man, I didn't really care. I'm just happy to be home with you. Let's go in and watch the baseball playoff game." You know, so
it's hard to do. It's hard for me to
Yeah.
pivot that way with kids as athletes too. That kind of back off. My wife helped a little bit. David, you've got to back off a little bit.
We didn't have that problem at our house. But along with that, when does striving for excellence become unhealthy perfectionism. And this is, I think, so this is something that I would see in my office, although I don't do sports psychology.
Yeah.
I have athletes who are striving perfection in grades, and then, isn't the goal to be perfect, but when does that kind of become that unhealthy perfectionism?
Yeah, I think when it's interfering with performance. The whole
Okay.
idea behind sports psychology is to build the mental toughness and the skills to kind of stay in that zone where you're at your peak performance. And if you're being too hard on yourself and you're hanging your head because something was subpar, there was a little mistake, and you're dragging a little bit and you can't shake it. I call it the bounty maneuver, where it'd be the quicker picker upper, just, get through it. But I think it's when it starts to impact performance negatively. And I think it has a lot to do with goals. I think it has a lot to do with self-talk, energy management. All that stuff impacts that. And those are big modules in the sports psych world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And, I would say too that I think perfectionism it's other focused versus healthy striving is me focused. I'm doing it for me versus I'm doing it for others to be accepted or included. And that's when it really gets in the way, I think, of things, is because as soon as you make a mistake, all of a sudden the ground falls out from underneath you, and all of a sudden you're not worthy or good enough anymore just because you made a mistake. And we need to build a culture of reminding people that your whole self-worth isn't based on one thing. It's not based on your performance, but really an internal quality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing that you do, but it doesn't completely define you.
Yeah, two things with it. I would say, with focus, developing keywords for people whose perfectionism and high standards are getting them in a tough place. A lot of people, I'm trying to say, okay, you got to just bring it out there, and we know you're going to wing it, and you're going to trust it, and there's going to be some mistakes in there, but just start bringing it again, and let it play. The other one, too, I think, is goal setting. Oftentimes people have outcome goals. Get a hat trick, go to state, this type of thing. We don't have control over those outcome goals, right? We can control process goals and performance goals. Put your energy into those. So that would be like the process is, I'm going to practice my free throws, 50 a day, something like this, and work on that. And that's going to increase performance. Maybe the goal is to sink 20 in a row. So while you can't control outcome goals, if you focus on your process and performance goals, you increase the odds of achieving those outcome goals.
Yeah, great.
So.
Great, thank you. Ashley, what differences do you see in athletes' mental health in different age groups? So you work with a couple of different age groups, and I'm probably going to follow that up with Corey too.
I think age group, obviously it makes a big difference, but I feel like that gap is almost closing a little bit, because there is so many expectations. Little kids are, they're able to, it seems like, let it go quicker. But yeah, it seems like there's such high expectations coming from, especially in a small community. I mean, it's, when there's a sign that one of the hockey teams is possibly going to go to state, it's not just, your parents and your teammates that are excited, but it's the whole community behind you. So I don't know if that really answered that question.
No, it does. Yeah, if you could kind of talk to that too, because you've definitely worked with, so what differences do you see in athletes' mental health in different age groups? So, you've got the little 5-year-olds just out there kind of having fun, although I've had my kids play 5-year-old soccer, and there can still be tears, real sad tears on the soccer pitch.
I think for 5 through 23, one thing that I talk to them about at their own level is like putting things in perspective. Like, I know you just struck out, buddy, and that really, really hurts, but we're going to go out there and play another inning, and you're going to get another at bat. It's okay. And then our college kids, thinking about what's going on in their life. Like, yes, maybe we didn't win today. We did as much as we possibly could. We couldn't control that. But we got a guy over there who just lost his grandma last weekend. That's what's important right now, guys. So you can hit him at the higher level with some of those deeper things. That was one thing the Minnesota Gophers baseball team had. They had a perspective board. I never did this with my team. I probably should have. But they would bring in pictures and hang them in their locker room about people in their life that were going through something a whole lot more difficult than you trying to win a Big Ten championship. Loved ones who are battling cancer in the hospital bed. A kid who was in a car accident with his car mangled who is now walking, and it's a miracle. so they could see those pictures and think, yeah, I didn't have a very good day, but my uncle is battling it right now. So once again, the 5-year-old to the 22-year-old, a little bit of different message, but at the end of the day, it was just a perspective to help them let that performance go and focus on something more important in life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's great. Dave, back to you. How do athletes navigate the emotional side of injury or retirement from sports?
Yeah, this is really quite fascinating because I've worked with a lot of people that were involved with college sports while they were in college sports and then in high school and then didn't go on to college in sports. One of the most fascinating phenomena is how that team was such a big part of their identity and ego and self-esteem and belongingness.
Yes.
And so learning to nurture new relationships and or keep some of it fired up. Maybe it's getting ice time with some buddies or something like this to keep that going. One of the other biggest things is the increase in stress and anxiety that I see because while they were competing at a really intense competitive level, they were exercising a lot. They were really active.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, they've lost that stress reduction thing of the frequent activity and exercise, plus maybe a peer group. And so it can be a big, challenging transition. And so it kind of illuminates what they need to do. Get back to working out, get out there and find a new crew or get reconnected with their old crew.
Yeah, I talk to everyone about, eat, sleep, exercise, and connection with others is kind of, that's like kind of the basis and the foundational piece that you go. And so, you exercise is built into all these athletes' lives, right? And there's and connection with others. Well, that goes away. And then all of a sudden, if you were a hockey player or a soccer player or whatever, then kind of now what? How I had, one of my favorite T-shirts that I saw at Grandma's Marathon is "My sport is your sport's punishment," right? And so it's like, well, now you have to, if you can't just go out on a soccer pitch or go play softball or whatever your sport is, now how do I incorporate that? That's not part of a team training.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating to see the folks come in because they're like, I finished school and now I'm just down, or I'm done with high school and now I'm just. My depressive symptoms kicked in then, and they're not really connecting. The group and the exercise. As I'm like, well, boy, this is big change.
The big change and injury too. So that mid-season injury or the season-ending injuries and things like that could be.
Yeah, and I think with the injuries in terms of the sports psych is going back to the goals. You got to do a radical adjustment in your goals. Okay, you got to slow down, you got to rest, you got to eat well, you've got to do your PT, you've got to, your goals just radically change because you're not going to be out on the sheet of the ice or out on the gridiron, and that's all you can control.
That's all you can control,
and it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's all you can do.
It's a tough one, and your job is there to maybe then go support the team. And,
right.
And that's, although fun, not nearly as fun being on the bench as it is to be out there playing and getting that exercise and connection. What can captains or coaches do to support, Ashley, to support teammates struggling with mental health?
I think probably the biggest thing that I would think of is just normalizing mental health. When I got the call last year to work with, one of our local teams, I was so impressed that a young male coach had reached out, and that there was, a locker room full of boys that were receptive to me coming. And I think that, they had been working on yoga and some mindfulness stuff before I had even gotten there. And so I expected walking in there, I had no idea what to expect. I had asked some other high school students from that school, what I might be able to expect, and the reactions that I got were quite interesting. But when I actually stepped into the locker room, I was surprised how receptive they were. And so, I think it's really important to respect people's privacy when it comes to mental health. So if somebody is coming to you disclosing something, you may not know exactly how to support them, but you can say, I don't know the answer to that, but I'd like to help figure it out. And, as a coach, just, building a relationship with, bringing a therapist in. Again, I think it's just normalizing, the process for people. So maybe they would be more willing to go if, if the coach values
if the coach valued that, you have anything to say to add on to that?
I think it's just,
Yeah.
being there for them and developing that trust, because yes, you're the coach, but you're also a role model. They're looking up to you. So when they know that I got your back and we can
Yeah.
talk about this, and do we need a day off, whatever it may be, like, we're going to do it for you. We care about the person
Yeah.
and who you are, and the performance as an athlete, that's a secondary piece.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So how can schools and organizations help athletes prepare for life beyond sports?
Yeah.
You can speak to that,
I
because
think there's just so much.
yeah.
Even our baseball association 709, we'll have like our rec teams, and every kid's going to have a team, but then we'll have tournament teams, and we'll score the kids objectively on some different criteria, and we'll make a tournament team that will travel and play. And every year there are some parents who are really disappointed that their kid didn't make one of those teams. And we share with them, this is a good opportunity to talk to them about what they can improve upon, and that life sometimes isn't fair, but there's going to be a next year, and we can work at this, and you can get better.
Yeah.
So I think that's one small part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. The parent piece is tough.
Yeah, but I mean, just being a part of something bigger
Yeah.
than yourself,
Yeah.
and being loyal to each other, and having each other's backs, and like the friendships that are going to set up as they go through. For my youngest, through his 8-year-old team to his high school team, like those relationships and that time you spend together,
Yeah.
really sets you up for successful lives as people.
So as younger, as parents with have young kids right now, and we'll do this backwards. We'll start
Sure.
with you and then go backwards. What do you feel like it would be? They're trying to figure out if what sport or when to put kids in sports, and
Yeah.
what Let's speak to the importance of sports for having your kid involved in a sport
Yeah.
for children.
I mean, I think a lot of it is just the friend base. I think about my own kids and their friend groups that they have, and they change from year to year.
Yeah.
Some remain the same. Like, those are their guys that they're going to the Bulldog hockey game with on Saturday night. They're the guys that are going to the Sandlot to play in the summer together. So being a part of a team is so important. I think about kids that might transfer schools, and that can be a big challenge. But if they're going to a school to be a part of, even like in the music or the arts, or something that they can attach themselves to have that friend base,
Yeah.
is vitally important for their experience and their mental health, for that matter.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
kind
that they have other people who are going through it with you.
Yeah, built-in exercise and connection for kids, which is very kind of not, it doesn't always happen. Another question: how do team-based activities positively impact mental health for participants? So, kind of going along with that. So.
Yeah, I think it has a huge impact. I mean, I even think about myself. I played hockey for 10 years, and I look back at my experience doing that, and there's not many games that I remember. If I do, it was because we had worked together for something.
Yeah.
We had beat a team that we had never beat before, but so much of so many of my memories were running around in the hotel, and dances that we had in the locker rooms, and those kinds of things. So again, I think so much of it has to do with relationships, and staying grounded in that is, I can't reiterate that enough.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I agree. I think, having belonging, being part of a group
Yes.
is huge. In the absence of that, kids are going to find other groups to belong to that might not be doing as many healthy things. And it isn't just sports. This can be a robotics club or the Lego club or drama, and all that belonging, I think, is awesome. It exposes you to new mentors like Coach here. It exposes you to diverse, different people that come from different places.
Yeah.
And different ways of thinking.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really healthy that way, in terms of learning to push yourself, learning to work through things that are challenges, and the belongingness and the exposure to diversity and mentors. All that's really healthy.
Yeah, I think today to have those, losing is not a bad thing, because it teaches that resilience piece, right?
And we don't have that. Kids are not as resilient because parents don't want to see their kids fail.
Yes.
And so they tend to rescue them from those uncomfortable feelings. And I think that's part of the dynamic we see with coaches, at least that I hear, is that parents get upset when their kid doesn't make, the traveling baseball team.
Yeah.
And they go after the coach. And so I think it's so important for parents to model healthy behavior as far as all that, and help kiddos realize that, that is not the end all be all. And again, having realistic expectations. Most kids are not going to, make it into something, big. And so take cues from them. If they don't want to play, don't make them play.
Yeah.
They should do something different.
Challenging but achievable goals.
Yeah, challenging, and not to celebrate if your kid doesn't make a team or a sport or something, but also go, wow, this is a really great learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And this is really tough right now, and we're going to get through it.
So growth through adversity.
Growth through adversity, absolutely.
I think another thing too is that we have to remember that
Thank you so much. I know. We could talk about this all night. I want to thank our panelists, Corey Kemp, Ashley Ringstorff, and Dr. David Plood. Please join Doctors on Call next week with Dr. Krista Cody is joined by regional experts for a panel discussion about arthritis types, tendon and muscle problems, and prevention and treatments, with a panel of experts from around the region. Thank you for watching and for joining us for season 44 of Doctors on Call. Good night.